Hey guys, one-on-one with Jon Steingraber here, and I'm here with Alpha Funding's Dave Hansel. Say hi, Dave.
Hey guys.
Are you ready for some Papa Shot later?
I am. My warm-up was pretty good.
You're hogging all the balls.
I feel confident. I think I'm going to school you downstairs on the Papa Shot.
I don't think so. So
Are
why
we
don't
going
you
to
tell?
videotape that, by the way,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we can
we're
prove
gonna
to
video
everyone
it.
when I beat you on Papa Shot?
You're not going to win.
Have you played basketball before growing up, or?
I did not play any organized ball, but I did.
Organized ball.
You want to start over?
No, you go.
I did play a over 40 league for a little while and then busted my knee. So
Over 40. How old are you? What the fuck is he talking about? Is he joking?
You went over 40 league when you weren't over 40. That's when you started.
No, I'm gonna play against these motherfuckers that are old.
I'm 43 years old. What do you? I mean, come on. I'm over 40.
He's like, when I was 30.
I had a torn
I'm in the
meniscus.
over 40 league.
You started to play basketball late in life, and you went into an old league so you could feel good.
It was short-lived. What am I going to tell you?
He just disclosed that he's got one in his basement.
No.
Yeah, he's got a basket. He's got like a Papa Shot
I have
in his
a
basement.
fake version of Papa Shot, and you can call my wife and call my kids. I have not touched it probably in a year.
like a
least.
day.
We'll find out later.
So if you guys haven't tuned in recently, we did some awesome episodes. We did one on basically retirement, money mindset. That we really broke it down. We did, buying a house, home ownership, the importance of that, all the benefits, kind of countering Gary Vaynerchuk's comments to home ownership. Right? What do you think about that? He said that you shouldn't buy a house. You should just rent.
I think you could go either side of the coin. I think it's each person's situation. I think home ownership's important. I think, it allows you to have a place to call home and put your money into something that's going to be stable over the long haul. So I think it's the backbone of America.
That's a boring ass answer right there.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? I got to loosen up a little bit. I'm not used
He's
to
like, it's the American dream.
Right.
It's the backbone of America.
Yeah, everybody should go out and buy a house. That's the reality. I'll pretend like we're talking, we're not on video. So, yeah, I think it's stupid that he says you shouldn't buy a home. Like,
Yeah. Well, we broke it down in the video with benefits and it depends on the area. But anyway, watch that video, guys. There's a bunch of other videos that we're putting out too. So today we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We'll probably see, what this turns into.
Sure.
We don't really have a topic planned.
No, hopefully we don't go off the deep end.
But I think a lot of people don't even know. They don't understand the business, right, of real estate investing. A lot of people that are probably watching, a lot of new people that I've, met, they don't even know that you guys exist. They don't even know that I exist, right? Like NJRSN and our real estate clubs. And then they just watch a show on TV, or they've heard about somebody that flips houses, and they think that they have to save up all this money, or they have to get a regular mortgage, which most people aren't going to get a regular mortgage for those type of homes. And then they don't even realize that there is lenders like yourself. So why don't, for those viewers, let's just break down hard money. And by the way, if we want to even go to the flip chart.
We could draw on the flip chart.
We could draw on the flip chart a little bit.
Well, just big picture, kind of what you were talking about. I think that, you look at financial freedom and people that work for a living every day and they put some money into a retirement fund or whatever it is. You're trained to, or not trained to, live your life the way, you expect the same thing, you do the same thing every day. And there are so many subworlds of real estate. What's really exciting about real estate is that there are dozens of ways to make money. Like, obviously you can broker deals. A lot of people go that avenue, and a lot of brokers that are working in the business in and out every day don't understand the investor aspect of it. There's title companies, appraisal companies, there's attorneys. So there's lots of ways to make money. And what I love, and we were talking about this before, is that there are groups, a lot of meetup groups, yours being definitely the largest one in New Jersey, and where people come together and share ideas. And opens up the door to opportunities, whether it's wholesaling or getting.
But how many people, if we ask 100 people that have thought about doing real estate investing, out of the 100 people, how many of them do you think know that there's this alternative type of financing situation? And I'll break it down for you guys in a little bit and we'll talk about it. But how many of them do you think know if we asked 100 random people?
I think, so I live and breathe it every day, and I would say 50%, but it's probably more
50%?
it's probably more like 30%, right? In reality. And maybe even less. So what's funny is when you started Resin, it's been how many years? 11 years. I think we were at some of the first events, and I remember the room was maybe 30, 40 people. Not many people were investing. Hard money seemed, it was like nobody knew or understood what it is. And maybe because we're out at events all the time and we're talking about it.
We're in our own bubble.
We're in our own bubble, and I think more people understand it. But I am shocked sometimes when I'll meet somebody who's a pretty significant real estate investor and they don't know about it because they're not out at these events.
Right. They're just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
They're either using their money or they have a HELOC on their house, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting how realtors, right, they don't talk about it in real estate school. And most real estate brokerages, traditional real estate brokerages, never leverage hard money, to actually broker more deals, to get more deals done, right? So anyway, but you're right.
If you devote a little bit of time to education and you understand, I use this analogy all the time, right? For someone that wants to fix and flip a house, if they're going to go buy that property and during the time that they're doing their own due diligence, they realize that the roof actually needs to be ripped off. There's a second layer, and it's got to be ripped off and replaced. But the original budget didn't include it, or maybe it did. But at the end of the day, there's a cost to that house, to ripping off the roof and replacing it. And the investor doesn't say, oh my God, this house needs a new roof, I'm not doing the deal. They add up the cost of the roof, and they say, if I do this roof and I do all this other work, what's it worth when it's done? So there's two numbers. There's the total project cost, that's the purchase of the property, and the rehab amount. Right. And then there's a sale price. The difference between the two is their profit.
Well, gross.
Gross. And inside that number are paying realtors, paying taxes, paying finance fees. And we can talk about some of that later on.
So what would you call that, those costs?
Those costs are financing. And
no, I know, but is there a name for it?
I could make one up right now. I actually don't know.
Are they soft costs, hard costs?
Well, they would be considered a soft cost, right? When you model out, you do your own deals and you model out a cost of your materials and labor, and then you model out commission. You obviously can pay a lower cost because of your ownership and signature, right? But you have a cost for that. You have to pay the government. There's a 1% realty transfer tax in the state of New Jersey. Other states have different tax structure. So you figure out all those costs. So back to the point of the roof and the profit margin is that for lending or borrowing money, there's a cost to it. And we can talk later about what the real costs are of hard money, but
I think a lot of people are watching the show right now, they're probably confused, right? Well, on hard money.
Sure.
Dave, how many millions of dollars did you lend out last year as an example?
We did $100 million in fix and flip loans, hard money.
Right, so what they do is they lend investors money to go and buy the house. And up to how much do you finance? And I know there's different programs.
Yeah, so we have a couple programs.
Let's do an example. Is it okay if I go to the flip chart?
While he's going up there, our main program, we have a lot of different programs, but our main program is...
So let's do the one that we're doing here, across the street that we're selling it to Muhammad, and so he's buying it for $430.
Yep.
Right. So this is the purchase price.
Right.
Right. Purchase price $430. Right. His renovation is about $100,000. Right. That's the reno. And then the resale right, that the appraisal came in at was 715. Right, so you could use your calculator if you want. I would have to use my calculator for sure on this. So we have 530. We have, well, this is 530, right?
Yep.
Right here. And then we have plus costs, right? So we'll get to that in a second. But the ARV, the resale, is 715. So ARV is after repair value.
Yeah.
So, you know, how much are you going to lend on this deal? For a brand new person, right? Because he's brand
Right.
new. So what would you lend? Like, what are you doing right
Sure.
now in your calculator?
So what I'm going to look at for a brand new borrower, so this deal doesn't showcase the best leverage we can do because the profit margins aren't as great, but I'm going to take this number and multiply it times 0.65.
So 715K times 0.65.
So
So you do 65% of ARV.
Right. So a max loan amount on this deal is $465,000 that I can write on this loan.
So 465. Okay.
So
So you can lend. So he needs 530, right?
Right. So he would be bringing the difference of the two, which is $65,000.
So you're basically financing 88%.
Correct.
That's freaking great.
Yeah. Well, we do a lot better too, right? So if this, and we have, I would say 50 to 60% of every deal that we do, the borrower can come in with 10% of this number of the purchase.
So typically 10% of purchase.
Right.
And that's it?
Correct.
What about renovation?
We give them 100% of the renovation. They have to bring no cost for the renovation. So
if the ARV was 750,
yeah,
right? Which it could be.
yeah,
Right? But we want to be conservative when we're reselling properties, right? If it was 750, then they could bring just 10%, which
the
would be
43,000.
Now, do they have to pay anything like closing costs and stuff like that? Plus closing costs.
Correct.
Plus closing costs. So they could potentially do this deal for 50, 60 grand. In this case, they're putting up a little bit more.
Correct. The
But
dollars,
you're financing 88%. Okay, so what do we think that he's going to make on this deal? So if we take taxes are $1,000 a month. You have insurance, you have utilities.
So I typically will take this number, and if this is the out sale, I'll multiply that times 0.94. That's 5% for commission, and that's 1% for realty transfer and an attorney fee to close.
But 0.94 would be you mean 0.094?
No, 94% of this is the number that they're paying all the fees out. So
okay.
So if you're at 715,000,
So you're only taking 6% out?
I break it out into a couple categories. Can I draw a piece on another page? Yeah. Watch.
Yeah.
I'm going to, I'll draw like a nice, let me see if I
Show
come
me how
on
you do
this
it.
side.
Yeah, good.
So I'm going to do this. Visual makes it really easy, right? Here's this is total project, right? This is, what did we say, 500, how much is he in the whole deal for? He has purchase of
530.
So this is 535,000.
No, 530.
530. So you have this is 530,000. That's made up of this is 100K in rehab.
Right. 430 purchase price.
And purchase is here.
Are you righty or lefty?
I'm a righty.
Oh, okay.
So all this is the total project cost. This is just purely your purchase and your renovation get you here. And then this up here is your sale. What do we say?
715.
715, right? So this is where your sale price is 715,000. Now, gross margin, this is right here is the difference, but this is like flipping TV shows. They say, oh, here's your profit.
Right,
That's
185,
BS, right?
yeah.
So here's where I think this shakes out. I put in here, this is like your commission and
That's a realtor commission on the back end when they sell it.
when they sell it, and taxes, so on and so forth. I usually look at 94% of this number here, right?
Right, because
So-
you're going to pay about 0.8%, 0.85% in transfer tax,
Right.
a little bit more, and then you're also going to have maybe 5% in commission about.
Yeah, so 0.94, let's say you're actually clearing 672, but this still isn't, now you're gonna say, okay, this is my profit here,
Not yet.
but not yet, you still
You have closing costs when you bought it.
Right, you have,
Right when you close on it, you have
Yeah.
closing costs. You have taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, snow removal, landscaping.
yep, so on the acquisition side, depending on how much you borrow, right? The average, we did a study of the last $100 million of loans that paid off that cost 8% total of the amount borrowed. So I kind of use that number, and the way I come up with that is we're charging, and I may lose people on this, but we're charging like if I charge somebody 10% and 2 points, which is 10% interest only on the money we lend them as it goes out the door, plus 2% for origination, that equals 12% over the year annualized, and now you're telling me 8%. How does that math work? Well, the money isn't out for 365 days. You're out maybe 7 months or 8 months to do the flip, and that 100,000 in construction isn't out. So each deal.
So it's like you end up paying 8 points.
You basically pay
Like no
8%
interest.
for the money. So
8% total or
Total.
annualized?
Total.
Total.
Total
Okay. So
eight-
it's like, so it would be equivalent to me saying it's gonna cost me about 8 points.
Yeah. So the
No percent, no
Right.
annual interest, just 8 points
Correct.
total, but not up front.
Correct.
I paid over time.
So we could look at adding, 8%, but that's 8% of whatever they borrow. So in this, we're not giving
Right.
the full 530, but let's say we gave
Well, you're giving 88% of that, so
Right.
just take that. Just do 88% of 530.
530 times 88 is 466 times
0.08.
0.08. So there's an extra 37,000.
Okay.
This is 37,000 roughly.
Okay.
So 37, that's 567.
Okay. And then we have what?
Then you have,
Holding costs. 1,000 a month, say for 6 months, or say 1,200 a month.
depends on taxes or whatever, throw in.
Well, taxes on this house are 12,000 a year, so that's
So-
1,000 a month.
Yeah, so
Plus
say,
200 a month for insurance, so 1,200 plus utilities. Call it $1,500 a month for 6
Sure.
months. So
So-
1,500 times 6, 9,000.
sure. So holding. What do we say, 9K?
9,000. So that puts us at 500. Are you just subtracting?
No,
Just-
I'm adding
Oh,
this
you're
up
adding.
and moving
Okay, so
down here.
okay.
So now you're 567,
576.
so you're 576.
6. Yep.
I think you're fully baked here, right? So the difference
Right.
between these two,
So
Is-
672, and can you subtract that 672 and 576?
672 minus 576 is 96,000 in profit.
So he has $96,000 in allowable mistakes, right? And now this guy only needs to put up 12% of the total cost of the 530.
Correct.
And what is that? What's 12% of 530?
So 12% of 530 is 63,000 divided by,
So 63,000, right? So he's putting in 63,000,
for a return of 96.
and he's going to get his 63 back, plus he's going to get 96.
Correct.
If all these numbers, like
Correct.
if he doesn't go over in his renovation,
Sure.
and he sells it for 715,
Correct.
which maybe he sells it for more, maybe he sells it for less,
Yeah.
maybe his renovation is less, maybe it's more,
Yep.
probably more, right? It
Correct.
doesn't typically go less, right? But 63,000 in, he'll get that money back plus 96 grand.
Correct.
Hopefully, that's a great return if he does it in 6 or 7
Yeah,
months.
it's a huge return.
And that's why it's not just what the money costs you, it's what you're going to make.
Right.
Because you might not be able to do this with a traditional loan.
So what I love about the way that we work with borrowers is that we have a really awesome spreadsheet that we plug all the numbers in and we stress test the deal. And we say, well, if the project goes 6, 9, 12 months, if you pull the money out a lot faster or slower, how does it look? And we spend time saying to the investor, hey, look, this deal you can get in with 10%. Actually, this deal, if you put down $43,000, we're projecting a profit of $80,000. Then you can make a decision, say, wow, this is really good. The bigger this number is, I actually, the bigger this number, I'm going to do something else real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the bigger that number is,
Here, take over.
the less risk there is. Bye, John. See you later. That's good. So you have, I'm going to do one of these again. So if this is the profit here, and this is project cost, the higher this moves up means the less margin here, right? So if your project cost is 60% versus 80% of this total project cost, this deal is so much more risky, right? I always tell investors that if we went through all these additional costs that were laid out in that other sheet that we did, but I always say to investors, listen, once you start getting above 75% and you start approaching 80%, the deal becomes questionable, right? And the way I come up with the percentage is I take the total project cost, which is your purchase price and your rehab amount, and divide that by the ARV. So you're going to take total project cost and divide it by the after repair value, or the retail value when it's done. The higher the percentage, the worse the deal is. The only time we would look at a deal where the margin you're up at this 80 and the difference is the 20% as a margin, is if it's a really light rehab and you can get in and out of the project, quickly. Because things happen, right? At the end of the day, your contractor slows up, runs off, the city's backed up, so they're not coming out to do inspections. Even if you're not borrowing money, if the project goes longer, you still have carrying costs, right? You still have to pay the government. They want their taxes. And the market can change too, right? We're at a point in the market where people are feeling exuberant, but at the same time, they're very cautious. Everyone's waiting to see what happens. Like, interest rates have moved back down again, but we've been in an upward trending cycle for a really long time. So the longer your project goes, the more risk you have, right? So the only time you want to look at a deal where your margin is 20% and your total project cost is 80% of the sale is if you feel ultra confident that you can get in and out fast. Like, it's a light rehab, just paint, maybe some minor stuff people refer to as maybe a prehab. But always be true to the numbers, because there's a lot of other costs that are baked in, which we went through in detail on the last slide here, right? Like, is this called a slide? It's a piece of paper, but flip chart. The flip chart. So these numbers may be hard to read. So these percentages are not taking into account the sale price, everything else. This is just a wide angle view of a deal. And like I said, once you get above 75%, you really got to think whether or not it's a deal you want to do. And you got to be confident that you can move through that project quickly.
Yeah, and look at economic factors, the season that it's going to be finished in.
Yeah.
We talked about that the other day. If the house is going to be listed in November on Thanksgiving, that's kind of a problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All that stuff matters. So negotiate your close at the right
Although
time.
when you have a good realtor like Michelle, she can sell stuff any time of year.
She loves winter, actually.
Yeah. But your odds may go down. So that's, it's important to be true to the numbers, and that's something we
Did you know you were going to be giving a math class today?
I had no idea. That was kind of...
I actually didn't know how you guys did it, so that's interesting. I mean, we always just do. Some people say just multiply it by 70% and subtract the repairs.
Right.
Right. So if you have a $400,000 resale, you just take 70% of the 400. Right. What is that? 280. And then
Yep.
if it needs 80 grand in repairs, you subtract 80 from the 280, and you're at 200. What do you think about that? That's the Mayo formula.
I think that's a great way to do it. Look,
You like that?
I do like that. I think
I don't.
The way that I do it, when I get calls all day, or we get these quick pre-approvals from our website, we probably get 30 of them a day.
Right.
And the quick math that we do is when we ask for a couple bullet points. We ask, what's an address? What's the purchase price? What's the rehab budget? And what's the after repair value?
Right.
Before I hear the story about how it's such a great location and they have beautiful landscape and it just needs to be cleaned up, blah, 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 I just want to hear those things. Why? Because I'm going to take the ARV value, the retail value, and multiply that times 0.65 to see where a loan falls out for us. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add together, in my mind, they're going to say I'm buying it for 200, I'm putting 100,000 into it. So I say, okay, their total project cost is 300,000. And then I say, they're telling me that the ARV value is 400. I take that 300, the total project, and divide it into 400. I want to see what their total project costs.
75%.
Because like I got a deal this morning on the way up here, and it was a 83%. That meant it was a 17% margin. And I said
Gross.
before paying commissions, holding costs, I go, listen, this deal, high level, if your numbers are accurate, don't make sense. I wouldn't do this deal. I said, forget about me lending money to you. There's not a lot of margin for error. And then the person said, well, I was giving you an ultra conservative number. I actually think it sells for 50,000 more. And I said, so when someone tells me that, he's actually a very savvy guy, intelligent guy. And I said, well, let me ask you another question. I said, what does your realtor think it sells for? Like, you talking to your realtor is going to be the best estimate, like a good seasoned realtor. Like, what do they think that retail number's worth if you do the work you're going to tell me? And they said, that $50,000 more. I say, okay, so let's start fresh. Let me do the math again off the 450. And you know what? The margins on that deal were a lot more attractive. So then I said to him again, I said, listen, if the 450 is a number, I think it's worth pursuing, and let's move this forward, and I can get you closed quickly. But I just want you to know the way we decide the ARV is by using an appraisal. And we give the appraiser your scope of work, and the appraiser is going to go out and snap his fingers and pretend like you did all that work.
Right.
Today.
He's going to envision the house with a new roof, with new siding, new windows, new floors, new kitchen, new bathroom, and then he's going to compare it up against other properties that are already renovated.
Correct. So I'll say, look, they may come up with this 450. If it's in this range, it's still a really good deal. But if it's actually 400 and you think there's a high probability, one, I don't want to waste your money having an appraisal done if you really believe 400 is, because you have to pay that appraiser, a fee. But if you really think it's at the higher number, then the deal's good. So
what did he say?
He said, no, I really believe it's at 450. So I said, get me an app in, let's get the numbers.
Right.
So.
But that's a good rule of thumb for people that are going to call a hard money lender, right, like yourself.
Yeah.
They're going to say, okay, let me do my project costs, right? Let me do the resale value, right? And then just multiply by 0.65 and see if that 0.65 number is, if the number's going way too high above that 0.65, that 65% of the total value, it's probably going to be worth less doing.
Yeah, I mean.
Is that what you would recommend? Like, if I had a deal right now, should I just say, all right, let me see what the ARV is 500 grand, let me do 65% of that, and then see if that fits within my total cost? Not total, but like.
Yeah, that's
The
a
purchase
good,
and the renovation.
I think, so that's the math we do to see what my max loan amount could be. And there's a lot in between, right? Like your budget may change. You may not know your exact budget at the moment when you're going out to look at the property. You're quickly,
Right.
like if you're really experienced, you know your cost down to a T. You've bought certain cabinets, you know
Right.
what you're going to do. But a newer investor may have a lot of fuzzy area in there. So you have a general idea of that number. You have a general idea of what the after repair value. I think take the lender out of the equation first. Put yourself and your profits first, right? So just say, I'm buying it for X and I'm putting Y into it. And when you add those two together, what is that as a ratio to the sale price?
Right.
If that number starts creeping over 75%, you
Probably
probably
not a-
want to,
Probably not a good deal.
right. And the financing fits in around that. But
And how many investors do you see that do that and they're just trying to make it a deal?
you mean
They're just trying to make, I mean, they're just like, oh, all the houses in the area sell for 5, but mine's going to sell for 550 because I'm going to do such a good job. And they kind of like fudge the numbers. Like the renovation's really going to be 125, but they
Yeah.
come up with 80,000.
Sure.
How many people do that?
I mean, it definitely happens, and sometimes it's done with purpose, and sometimes it's done because of inexperience.
Right.
And there's a difference, but you know, there's so many shades of gray in between that.
How
So
many?
probably 50. 51. Was that the right number?
That was the perfect number I was looking for.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Hard Money. I mean, I love talking about this stuff, and I could totally geek out on it. We really, like, I love talking to new people about deals and understanding, like, hey, what are your costs here and there? But we do get folks that come in, sometimes it's, I was making this, I think I told you this, I'm going off target, but have you guys ever seen the video, The Evolution of Dance? Where they do
Yeah.
dances from the 20s till today. I had this great idea. Joshua Productions should do this just for the fun of it. The evolution of the real estate investor, right? I'm going to tie this back to what I was saying. You know, you've seen it more than anybody because of your events and the groups that you run. But you get these guys that come out that watch the show. They're all hyped up. They want to do a deal. They're like, where am I going to make money? How am I going to do it? I'm just getting involved, and they're super excited, and they're committed. They're not sure what they're committed to, but they're committed. So they're dancing around. They start wholesale, and they buy wholesale signs. They're doing the wholesale deal. Then they say, you know what? I really want to rehab. Next, they start to rehab, and they were mildly successful on the deal. They figured out how to get the money. They figured out how to get the project done. Then they start getting confidence, and they're like, all right, I start buying up a whole bunch of properties. And it's in that phase that we see the biggest problems. It's almost like,
When they take on too much.
right, it's like when you start snowboarding. I used to snowboard years ago. I know you probably don't believe it, but it was like once you start doing it a couple times, you get confidence, and that's when you take your worst falls. So like you start saying, oh, I know I could build a beautiful kitchen. Oh, I'll get this. And they start buying everything. And they have this overconfidence about doing deals. And so those are the types of people that they got a couple deals behind them, and they believe that they're the smartest, most successful person. We've done over $500 million in loans. We've done hundreds of properties. We own a lot of real estate. And every day, some other crazy situation comes up, and I'm like, holy cow, how did that just happen? Or I didn't know that problem could come up. Right. And so
There's so many things that come up.
yeah, so my long-winded off story on this evolution of dance, evolution of real estate investors, that we do see people like think that they can do a better job, faster, quicker, whatever, but you have to go with what's really, you know, the norm. To finish out the evolution of the real estate investor, then they go back to like,
Wholesaling.
they eventually wind up back at wholesaling or prehabbing or light rehabs, but I think it would be a great video to do. But your direct question was, yes, people sometimes get very pushy about they can do things better, faster, quicker, cheaper.
Right.
I say that's awesome if you can,
Right.
but if you don't, here's what the result looks like.
Right. And having multiple exit strategies is probably the best. I'm kind of falling in love with the idea of multifamilies, buying multifamilies, fixing them up, getting them rented, and then like putting them on the market. So you could sell it and make a profit, or you could just keep it. So like it's not hurting you, right? You don't have that additional holding cost because the margin for error is small sometimes, and really what eats you up is the holding costs, right? And then you start getting desperate. Like, you know, you're like, okay, I need to sell this property because I have my hard money loan is coming due, or I have all this money out in property taxes and this and that. And then you're like, all right, I need, instead of, you know, waiting it out and getting your price, you kind of can't because.
Have you had a deal that you bought that you plan to flip and you're like, oh, I guess I own this house now, but it's working out well? Have you ever?
What do you mean?
Like you intended to flip, but then you.
Of course. Yeah. But you should go in my opinion now. I really like the idea of doing it. And, you know, we just did it on one property. We bought a 4-family house for $290 on a double lot with a 4-car garage, right? We put $111,000 into it, right? And then, you know, we got 1 unit rented and the other 3 are up for rent, you know, to do it. And the guy down the street, you know, wants to buy it. So he made an offer and, you know, he came in low at like 580 and then we got him up to 625, right? And he's buying it for 625. So like we could keep it and cash flow, which is good, you know, or we could sell it and then buy something bigger, right? Yeah. And I like the idea because it's like, it's paying for your holding costs while you're, you know, deciding what you want to do. And, you know, I think a lot of people don't look at a multifamily as a opportunity to flip.
Sure.
They look at like, I'm only going to do multifamilies when I'm going to buy and hold them.
Right.
So I think, you know, for those of you that are watching, that's a really good idea to like safeguard yourself, right? To go after multifamily, and it doesn't have to be a 6 unit, right? Or a 10 unit. It could be like a smaller one, like 2 units. So you don't have to deal with the state of New Jersey with the registration certificate and all that crap. Yeah. Right. You could just do a 2-family and then rent one out. And, you know.
It's funny on that topic. So we also have an equity company called Lucerne, and we buy and syndicate multifamily apartment buildings. And we went out and bought a lot of buildings in 2017, all that had a heavy lift to repurpose. There was renovation dollars needed. There were rents that could be moved up, which we executed on. And our intent and the way that we talked to our retail investors that were participating was that we were going to buy it to hold and enjoy the long-term appreciation and depreciation of the asset. And the values in that market have continued to drive up, and we wound up flipping a lot of them. We sold a lot of the portfolio that we didn't intend to your point, like, and I think having a backdrop for that, or some multiple strategies, and being able to recognize the right opportunity to take money off the table is important. So, I love having multiple exits in mind, and I think a lot of people don't always, consider it,
right. And people get in trouble when they're in the higher end areas, right? Because those aren't houses that you could rent.
Yeah.
And, the holding costs are higher, right? Your property taxes are higher, your insurance is higher, everything is higher because they're bigger houses, all that stuff. If you're in like Roselle, New Jersey, or, Roselle Park, or Linden, or Elizabeth, or in an area where prices are 100, 200, 300, or after repair value 400, somewhere around there, those are rentable properties.
Yeah.
Right? You could potentially refinance out, pay the hard money loan off, right? And then just hold on to it and probably not cash flow much, but, at least you'll be okay if the market turned, or if, something happened where you couldn't sell it. But not on the $1 million houses.
Right. You could go into hibernation, right? You can at least break even or not be bleeding every month to have that exit. But
you got to protect the downside.
Yeah.
So what about the high-end market? What do you think about that? Like, have you seen investors?
Well, some of our stories. I mean, geez, wow. We've had some issues in the higher end market, and we've seen a lot of inventory backing up. We've seen prices diminishing, and there's still a lot of inventory.
So what happens when somebody gets a house, you give them the loan, and then this stuff happens. Like, what ends up happening?
Yeah.
You know, like, how do you get your money back? How do
Sure.
you, like, what do you do? Explain that part of it.
So from a lending perspective, we're keeping in touch with the borrower during the course of the loan. It's a very different relationship than a traditional bank. Why? Because you're drawing money on construction.
Right.
In most instances, you're making a payment each month. So we have a pulse on what's happening. And if we see draws slowing down, or we know the house is done and it's on the market, we're going to call and just say, like, hey, what's going on? You know, we'll brainstorm with them and say, where are you right now? Are you having any challenges? So with the higher end market, you know, it's always it's a gamble. The carrying costs can get high and accumulate quickly.
So what happens?
So one of a few things happen.
Like, let's say they default for 6 months and then they stop
Sure.
calling you.
So if they default and stop calling us, right, we have to take legal action like a bank would to start foreclosure and utilize the tools that are in the docs and try to keep an open line of communication while we're doing it and trying to reach out to the borrower. Because, you know, some people when they're, you know, backs against the wall, they put their head in the sand. And others are open to discussion. We don't have all the answers, but you know, it's the same thing as a realtor maybe talking to their client on a high-end home. If they need to sell it, they may say, look, you know, the easy answer is drop the price. Here's the risk reward. Like, you're coming into the winter season. If you don't drop your price, the odds are going to be more or higher or stacked against you. So we would talk to them and say, hey, what kind of marketing have you been doing? We ask them to get from their realtor active under contract and closed. We may call up the appraisal company as well. We're going to talk through and try to see where it is. And if we feel that that borrower should get more aggressive, we'll talk to them and say, hey, look, I know you want to hold on to this price. Here's the risk reward. And we'll lay it out for them and say, you know, the problem is that if you're upside down on a property, if you have investors, don't actually realize the loss until the day that you sell it. Right. So investors many times will try to will away the reality that's coming down the pipe by saying, you know what, if I don't sell it for an extra $200,000 less, the house is $2 million and I'm getting offers for 1.8, I don't actually lose that money till the day I sell it. So
But you could lose more.
you can lose a lot more.
You're holding it.
But the day that they sign off, whatever those losses are, they're realized. So I say will it, meaning like they're hoping the market turns around or a magical buyer will come out of the woodwork. Now doesn't always mean a race to the bottom. If the data shows that there is activity, right. You know, like hopefully with this spring market, since mortgage rates have dropped a little and it looks like rates are not going to increase, that there might be a nice pop this spring. Right. But, you know, we try to talk to them and help be a second set of eyes on the project.
That's good. And I mean, obviously that's a very small percentage of the people that you lend money to, right? But some people just, you know, things happen or they go way over in construction or there's a lot of problems and they just get overwhelmed or financially they can't make the monthly payments, right? Yeah. But it is what it is. So you got to be careful, right, as a real estate investor. And you have to, you know, almost be a fortune teller and be able to predict, right, in 6 months what houses are going to sell for.
Well, outside of that, your protection is this, right? I mean, we talked about margin, right, or the total.
It's having a good margin.
Right. So what you see it, right? I'm sure everybody else sees it right now. A lot of people are chasing deals, like the newer people in the market, or even the experienced people that just want to keep their guys busy or trying to buy deals and paying up on them, and the margins are getting smaller. So it's overplayed, but be true to the numbers. Like you talk to us, we'll lay out what the numbers and the margin and the risk look like. Doesn't mean we're right, but we're going to go off of, we were bantering about appraisals, which are a standard for evaluating, but they're not always right. And I've seen them, you know,
Sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low.
sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. I've had people come back to me. I just had a guy, a perfect example. You're asking like a problem comes up. A very good borrower of ours needs additional capital to get the project finished. And he has 2 projects with us. He really just wants an advance on some of the money, which most lenders won't do because it has to be with the way the project. But we have a relationship with the guy. The values are there to support maybe more room if we wind up having to advance these dollars. And we said, look, he held out his hand, not hand, but he was saying, I need help. And we came up with a solution that moved the project forward because at the end of the day, we want the project to get to the finish line quickly. Because the longer it sits idle, the more problematic it is for us. So, you know, we were able to solve this issue and get some advance money that typically wouldn't because he had another project that was finishing up.
But the margins got to be there too.
Yeah, the margins.
Everything is the margins.
Yeah.
Everything is the profit on the deal.
Yeah.
I see people, they bring me deals and they're shit. They're shit deals. And I'm like, why are you going to do this deal? Break it down. Like, and it's almost like, you know, you're making a big decision. You're buying something for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
Yeah.
And in your head, you just want to flip a house because you've paid for coaching or training or something. And I see some people just trying to like do a deal to do it. Like a lot of times I've heard people like, hey, how'd the deal go, right? They finished their first deal. I'm like, how'd it go? They're like, well, I broke even, but I learned a lot.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, but what did you learn?
Yeah.
Right? Like you could have learned that without breaking even. You could have learned that without losing money.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is to make money, right? To buy a house, fix it up, sell it. And I've lost money on 2 deals in my career so far, which I'm sure there'll be more in the future.
Yeah.
But and it doesn't feel good, but if you have more winners and losers, that's
Absolutely.
it works. And you always got to pay people back, right?
Yeah.
Like you always got to do the right thing, and that's what I think is the difference between thinking about this like a short-term business or a long-term business, because it is a small world. And when you stop paying people, or if you don't pay a lender back, or you're defaulting and you're not communicating or whatever, that gets around.
Yeah.
Right? Like that gets around to our little community that we have.
All you have in this world is your reputation. I mean, you have more, but your reputation in the business is everything. And forget about, like, you source deals, right? You're looking for deals. If you say you're going to close and you close on a deal, or you're going to do something, you do it. If you promise a retail investor a certain return or a certain amount of level of communication, of transparency, you better deliver on it, because at the end of the day, if you want to do one deal, make a quick buck, you know, you could do whatever you want. I mean, but you have to look yourself in the mirror every day. But if you want to build a sustainable business, that doesn't mean that your pockets come before everybody else. If a deal has challenge, you know, if you're investors that came in on the deal, you got to make sure you take care of them and honor whatever you set up, because when you do find other opportunities, they're going to respect the fact that you are transparent. Even if you did have a loss, like, you know, we've had investors that have had, you know, losses on projects with us in investments, but as a whole, net, they're in a better place and they appreciate the transparency. So, you know, keeping you know, yourself accountable and honest is super critical to your success. This appraisal originally was done at I think it was like 289, and he was going under contract on this other property for 315, and he was saying, look, I sold this for more, you know. And we've had, on the reverse, we've had guys that have sold for less and come back, why did your appraiser tell us it was worth more money? You know, you can't put all your weight on that. You need to, the appraisal comes in.
And your finishes are everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like you finish a house, and the people that are finishing the house, caulking, moldings, all that stuff, light fixtures, appliances, like, you know, making sure things aren't crooked, that the floor is not, you know, unlevel.
Yeah.
All that is that could be a $50,000 difference right there. Easy.
Yeah.
If you stage the house or if you don't stage it, right?
Yeah.
There's like a million different things that could change the price of the home.
Yeah.
And the realtor that you hire.
Yeah.
Right? If you hire the wrong realtor, you know?
It's such a huge difference. I mean, there are a lot of guys that can get a lot of work done, but getting the job finished. And those,
So what advice do you have for people just in real estate, like overall? Like obviously you're a hard money lender, so if you guys need funding, right? Alpha Funding is, you know, here for you guys to basically bring your deals to. Where do you do business, by the way? New Jersey?
Our core business is New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. When I say New York, the boroughs, Long Island, into Westchester County, Staten Island. All of New Jersey, we have a huge footprint in North Jersey, Philly, Lehigh Valley, but we do some stuff down in Florida and up and down in some, you know, the East Coast, but the primary market, New York, New Jersey, and PA.
Cool. So what advice do you have for them?
So
New and experienced.
be committed to getting out and networking and talking to people, having an open mind. It's huge because every day you could learn something new or have a new perspective on how to run your business. Be true to the numbers when you're looking at a deal, and make sure you build a team and work with people that you're comfortable with. Make sure you get references, make sure you understand what their limitations are, and you know, try to align yourself with good people. Sometimes it's hard parsing through the forest, so to speak, when you're newer, but you can always do your diligence, ask for references. So get out, network, be true to your numbers, and make sure you understand who you're working with.
That's good. Tell us a nightmare story.
Oh, where should I go with this one? So when I was talking about evolution of dance and real estate, we got, years back, Alpha was starting to lend in Philly, and we were lending to a guy down in an area called Point Breeze in South Philly. We saw a lot of opportunity there. And I'm embarrassed to tell the story, but it's a true story. We started buying up a lot of properties. We bought like 50 properties for our own portfolio that we were going to rehab and put into our own rental portfolio and refinance out.
Like single families or?
Single family row homes.
Okay.
So we were buying these on a super, super low end in the very beginning for like 15 to 20,000 a pop, up to like 75,000 a pop. Rehabs were running like 80,000, per house, okay. 85,000. So we bought this house from a wholesaler, and we sent our contractor out to the house, and we get a phone call because he was going to give us numbers and start to get a crew ready to go. And he's like, Dave, what's the address? I tell him the address again. And he's like, there's no house here. I go, what are you talking about? And he says, he takes a picture, and there's a bulldozer actively working on the site with rubble. And apparently the house had been on a demo list from the city that we had no idea. We paid $40,000
Oh,
for.
so you had bought it?
We bought the house.
And then the city knocked it down?
The city knocked it down. There was no demo sticker, but any idiot could walk by and rip the demo sticker off the thing. And we didn't even think to go, like, how did we know at the time? And we were just exuberant, just going out and buying all these houses. We're like, just, counting all this money that we're going to make someday down the road and have this awesome portfolio. So the story didn't turn out horrible, but it was like a year and a half that we held it. Not only that, we got, the city is always kind enough once they demo your house to lien the bill on your property. So it was a $20,000 job. So I actually paid $60,000 for a house that was now a vacant lot.
Wow.
So I paid $20,000 to have a house that we were planning on renovating and getting work done. It was a bit of a mess. But the good news was that we literally sold it probably about a year and a half later as a lot and got whole. I think we probably lost a couple bucks. I think we sold it for like $63,000, but we had costs, and we're not counting our cost of hold or carry. I mean, we've had others where we've lost money, but we thought we knew a lot, and
it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
You got to do your due diligence, right?
You gotta
I
do
bought a
that.
house. I bought a house and it's next to the power lines, and I'm thinking, okay, I could reduce the price, the after repair value, by $100,000, right? It's somebody will buy it, right? And I got a whole report done, right? The electromagnetic field report, the EMF report, to make sure that the radiation or whatever is not affecting anything in the house, and it came back clean, right? But then when I went to resell it, like it wasn't $100,000 difference. I couldn't get the house off my books.
Like 250.
It was, I thought, it's funny because the appraisal came in at 990, right? So I'm thinking 890, and I'm selling it for 860. So it's, you never know, like those things happen. Another house, I had a double yellow line. And you think that you could just reduce the price by 50 or 100 grand. That one, I thought we could sell for 899, and we ended up selling it for 781.
Yeah. So it's not functionally obsolete, but I always say when we get backing up to power lines, a train station,
I'll never do it again.
double yellow line.
I'll never buy anything on a really busy street with like commercial properties around it, unless it's commercial. And I'll never buy anything with power lines.
I always say seven out of 10 buyers don't want to buy it no matter what.
No matter
Even
what.
if it's a great deal, the husband, the wife, they're like, there's no way I'm living here, right?
Right.
So now you're limiting the population.
The pool,
So if you need to unload it, the sale price could be endless on how much you got to take a beating on it. So, unless there's lots of comps.
So what about you as a lender though? Like let's say I bring you a deal and the appraisal comes in, but it's by the power lines. Do you do it?
Well, so I look at the adjustments, and we were talking about this before. I look at what the adjustments are for the location within the location, right?
But it's just an opinion.
It's an opinion, but like what I like to look at is, were there other sales that were along the power lines or on a double yellow line road? Because there are areas where houses sell on a double yellow line road and other areas where they don't.
Like in Chatham, it's going to sell no matter what.
Yeah, so you look at days on market. So if there were other comps on a double yellow line road and the days on market weren't that long, I'll say, look, you want to be cognizant of it. But if it's you have no other comps and they're just making adjustments for it and you can't find a sale, I say, look, it's easier to walk away from a good deal than it is to get involved in a bad deal. Like, you can always find something else to invest in, but
you would potentially give a loan on them. You just are going to be a little bit more diligent on the appraisal value.
we're diligent on the appraisal value, and we'll try to talk to the investor and say, hey, look, we're comfortable at this level, and I think that they made these adjustments. However, to your story, and I've seen it many times over, like if you need to move a property that's in a obscure spot, be it power lines or double yellow line road, you may have to get ultra aggressive, and that ultra aggressive could put you upside down, and upside down pretty far. Are you willing to take that risk? And some people are, some people aren't. The biggest challenge is when you find someone that's willing to take that risk, but you can read between the lines and they just don't get it or understand.
So how does experience matter for you?
Experience matters.
Like let's say somebody comes to you, they have no experience. Are you going to give them a loan on a deal?
Yes, but so there are people that come to us. This is a great topic. There are people that come to us with lots of experience. You could have done 10 deals. They could all be losers, right? You could have never, like, you can't finish the house. You jerry-rigged the house. Like, I've had guys that built the deck. They, like, instead of, like, putting a full post in, they're, like, slapping 2x4s and sistering joints. Just do shoddy work. You could have experience doing a lot of work, but be really bad at it. What we look at is...
It's like some realtors that are like, oh, I've been in the business 20 years, but they sell one house a year and they suck.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. Right. How many realtors are out there that do even 5 deals a year? If you've been in, I'm experienced, I've been in the business for 20 years, but you sell 5 houses a year.
Yeah, you've sold 100 houses total.
I don't want to hire that person.
No.
But the way we look at a new borrower is, are they thoughtful about what they're planning to do. It's not,
Prepare.
yeah, it's somewhat subjective, but are they well organized? Like some people come to us and they have a background in project management, maybe in technology. Like, I love that borrower a lot of times. Why? Because they're used to dealing with managing a large project and problems that come along. Being a problem solver is probably the biggest attribute someone can have in this space. Like,
So what's your least favorite borrower? Like, give me an example. Like they just don't fill out the application. I know Strasser did a presentation and he's like, no, like 90% of people don't finish the application. They don't fill it all out.
I don't know about lease. Like, I could tell a funny recent story.
All right, good.
We had someone that came to us, they heard us speak at an event, and they said most borrowers get pre-approved. And that is a true statement because a lot has to do with the deal. And we look at a few items. We look at credit. We take a holistic view, but once you get under 600, it gets challenging. We look at what kind of income or money do you have in the bank, and what kind, like those two pieces together, because it does take some money to do, or if there are problems, you need to have some way to get money from a job or from income that you have or savings to help solve issues if a problem comes up. And then we look at what the exit is for that property. So we had someone that came in and they filled out an app. Mike says, like, if you don't fill out the app properly, that's a problem. It's super simple, right? You sign your name and there's a few lines and people just don't do it. But the person had really bad credit, I think maybe.
What's really bad credit?
It was like maybe the mid 500s,
Okay.
all right? And they did not have a job, and so they had no income coming in, and they had less than 10% of the purchase price of the house they wanted to buy in the bank, and they weren't raising private money. Now that guy could come to us and say, look, I've assembled some people that are going to back me on this, and I can get more comfortable with it. But they didn't have any money in the bank to really do the project. And we said, look, the only way we can pre-approve you and look to do a deal with you is if you bring in a co-guarantor or financial backer. And the person,
how's he going to make the monthly payments?
well, yeah, he wasn't going to be able to make monthly payments. If there were issues on the project, he wouldn't have money to deal with it. Right. So when we told one of the underwriters, said, look, we can work with, we'd like to keep the relationship. You need to find someone to help you, back you on the deals. He was upset and said, hey, I didn't, I was at this thing and you said you pre-approve almost everybody. And I went to call him and I left him a voicemail, but on his voicemail said, if you are a debt collector, do not leave a message.
That's what on his voicemail?
Yes. So it's a true story. Certainly won't mention any names. Hopefully he's not going to listen to the show. But in all seriousness, I said to him, I said,
tag him.
From a caring perspective, I'm not sounding corny, but I actually wanted to help the guy. And I said, look, I understand that we said most, and I feel awkward saying this, but you fit in that small category of where most doesn't fit. I said, I'm not saying that to be funny.
You're the bottom of the barrel.
Well, no, I said, look, you don't have income or a job, and your credit is really bad. And to top it off, when I called and left a voicemail, it says if you're a debt collector, don't leave a message. I said, take that voicemail off if you want to try. If you would like to try and work with another lender. I said, but you can find a path. Like, there are people that have been down on their luck.
So do you do like lien searches on people and name searches to see if there's any judgments against them?
So we do pull credit and we do a background check. So we want to us, we want to understand who the person is, right?
Right.
We want to understand, we have people that have had criminal background issues, like that are all over the gamut, but if you had financial fraud.
Why did you point at me when you said that? He was like, we have people that have criminal background.
John,
Why did
All
you?
these people are going to come up on the screen. We're going to promote them.
Why did he point at me?
No, but we keep that highly confidential, and at the end of the day,
It's the lower segment of the show.
yeah, at the end of the day, like people may have been involved in stuff when they were younger, or drugs, or speeding, this, that, the other thing. The tough stuff is if you've been involved in financial fraud, and we've seen that. That's obviously a non-starter. But there are people that have had bankruptcies and challenge past that we can work with.
Like short sales, foreclosures.
Yeah, so long as we understand and we feel like they're transparent, and they're filled out, they have a way now to move the needle forward. So like to this gentleman, I said, listen, go out to events. If you really start to know like the deals in your market and can find it, maybe you could find somebody who believes in you and you can get comfortable that can help back you. And
Or maybe start with wholesaling.
yeah.
Like that's what I would have told him.
Yeah.
I would have said, go out, do your marketing, get a house under contract like this one.
we call them up and we'll tell them.
Yeah, there you go. And then wholesale your first couple deals, pay off your debts so people stop leaving you voicemails, right? And then from there, get comfortable with the process. I always tell people a good way to get started is wholesale a deal, but the person that you wholesale the deal to, like let's say you wholesaled me a deal, right? And I use you to fund it, but when you go to wholesale a deal to somebody, say, I'll wholesale it to you, but I want you to teach me how you do this.
Yeah.
Like, can I shadow you in the whole process, and I'll pick you to wholesale the deal to, right? Because when you have a deal under contract, you can wholesale it to whoever you want, right? If I wholesale it to somebody that's experienced that, right, I can learn from.
It's brilliant.
I mean, that's like free money right there, free education, free value.
You have to be honest about who you are as a person, right? Like there are people that hustle and work hard, and other people that like they want to make the quick buck, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to make the quick buck, but it does take hard work in this business to be successful. And I always love meeting people. I was actually at an event yesterday and met somebody, younger girl, not that far out of college, was working a job and getting involved now in real estate investing. And she's going out to events all the time, and you could tell she's just hungry to learn and work and be anxious to help people. So I always say, and I've heard you do the same thing, like find someone that's doing something and beg them. You were just telling the story at Grow with Gorga. I love the story that you told about how you went out to work with Than. You just said, can I come work for you for free?
Right.
Like that resonates. Like that is, go to these events. Like you'll pay money to join a mentorship or this or that. Go to the events and just be willing to work hard and let me be your
Add value.
Yeah, let me go out and do your dirty work.
I've had so many people that come up and people are always, and I've said this I think on one of the shows, I learned this from a guy named Jon Steingraber. He's awesome. And I work with him on some of the brokerage stuff. And he goes, a lot of people, what they're doing is they're trying to take withdrawals on relationships, right? And they have no equity in that relationship. They never made a deposit. Yeah. Right? And people try to take withdrawals, right? You can't go to the bank and take a withdrawal if you didn't put any money in the bank, right? So like make deposits into the relationships, before you make a withdrawal. And if you don't have the money to make, pay to play, right? Hey, I'll give you 50 grand and I want you to teach me how to do this because I know that you make $1 million a year and, I want to make $1 million a year or I want to make 500 grand a year. Great. That's a good move, right? People pay $50,000 to go to college and they learn from a professor that makes 80 grand a year. Yeah. Right? To get a degree. And people don't always think like that, right? Like I'm going to pay, but if you don't have the money, well, there's another form of payment. It's your time. Yeah. Give them your time, but instead of going to people and say, let me take a withdrawal, hey, I get this so much, can I pick your brain? Yeah. Right? Like I hate that line. Can I pick your brain? Like, it's like
I'll have to make a memo.
It's almost like somebody like you. I think if you said that to me, I'd be like, let's go because we can mastermind and we could get something from each other. But when somebody that's brand new, oh my God, like thank you so much for the hour and a half presentation you just gave us for $25 and you fed me And then they come up and they go, can I pick your brain for like 2 hours tomorrow? Like, no.
They'll be like, can we go out to lunch tomorrow and
Right, can I pick your brain? And you don't say that, you say, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? Like, is there something missing in your business? Like, are you door knocking? Are you putting up signs?
Yeah.
Are you doing something? Like, what can I do in your business for free?
Yeah.
Right, so I can learn, and then you put in the time, you help them make money, you get them more opportunity, and then they're gonna be like, wow, this person's a hard worker.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're gonna give them the opportunities, like, because you're going to be front of mind for those people.
You asked before about advice. That what you said is the absolute best advice for anyone in this space. Like,
Yeah.
Obviously, once you have success, then your activities and what you're looking to do are different. But like for newer people,
Did you ever do anything for free?
I've done a lot of stuff for free,
Do you still do shit for free?
I
I
still
don't
do
even
shit
know where
for-
this is going to
yeah.
go.
No, listen. I actually, you know what?
50 Shades of Not Money. It's really.
And he does lots of
I have the mentality that whatever I do in life and whatever I've done, I want to be the best at. And I literally wash dishes in a restaurant and like bussing and
busboy?
setting tables. And in my mind, I wanted to do it as fast as I could, as best as I could, clean as I could.
As efficient.
Everything was about doing the best and being efficient. I actually felt proud about it. It sounds
Right.
corny, and
No,
I
no,
now
it's-
have
that.
so everything that I've done, I know you'll laugh and think this guy did triathlons. My wife doesn't believe it, but I used to do triathlons. I was a collegiate athlete.
Were they like beer triathlons?
No,
or-
they were like Olympic distance triathlons.
Really?
I'm
I'm just messing with
so all my efforts on work, I got to have some better work-life balance. But everything that I do, when I do it, I want to feel proud about it. I don't care if it's like,
Yeah.
if it's something as basic as cleaning
dishes.
a dish, right? And that's the mentality I look for in people that I hire. Like,
Right.
talk about, I'll sidetrack on this, but Matt Weber, who's one of our business development guys, he's the ultimate hustler. And he was training people, like doing physical training before he came to work for us. And the one thing is that I always try to hire people that I think have that same mentality.
Right.
I don't care if they're the smartest or dumbest person in the room. If they have that hustle
Right.
and they
They're gonna
care
make it.
about what they do. So I've lived that through my whole life.
That's the T. Harv Eker quote. How you do
Yeah.
anything is how you do everything.
Yeah, I like that
Right?
quote.
How you do anything is how you
Yeah.
do everything. We're going to see if that applies to Papa Shot. for
Pop
you.
a shot.
See
You
how-
saw my
you gotta do
pregame.
it
My
perfect.
pregame.
You
Yeah.
got to do it perfect.
Got to stretch a little, huh? Before I get down there and pop a shot.
So how'd you get started in hard money? Like how'd you end up? I
Yeah.
mean, who ends up in hard money?
Yeah, it's kind of everybody does now.
Apparently, there's a lot
Well,
of people. Yeah.
I sometimes think, how the heck did I get here? And it just seems like a weird journey. But I got my real estate license in 2001. I was actually working up in Boston for.
you were a realtor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Before that, I was working for a technology company in project management up in Boston, and the dot-com boom came and deflated, and I got laid off. And I had a family friend, who actually used to be a coach of mine in diving, that had
You were a diver.
yeah, I was a collegiate diver, springboard and platform diving.
What?
Yeah.
Can you send us a picture?
Are you kidding me?
I do have a picture that I think I can find one. And he actually, my mentor, this guy had actually made me a T-shirt. I was on the front page of the newspaper, and he took the picture. It was me like flipping through the air in a pike.
Can you still do anything?
I probably could do some stuff, but I might pull a lot of muscles in the process.
Insane. I would have never thought.
That's crazy.
You didn't know that?
No, how
Oh.
would I know that?
Yeah, I was like nationally ranked and was
Wow.
yeah. You can't, again, now I could barely touch my toes because I'm not flexible and my belly gets in the way, but life changes. So yeah, so I got laid off, and this guy who was my mentor, it was my coach during high school, said, "Why don't you come back and get your real estate license?" And so I moved back home with my family. Was living like on the basement, in the basement of this house. with my parents in my early 20s. And I got my real estate license. And the story we're talking about hustling, I literally just I would do whatever I need to try and I'd help everybody in the office. Like every realtor, I'd be like, I'll help you with this. I didn't care about whatever. It didn't matter. Like I would stuff envelopes for them. I would help type stuff. I was like the most technically savvy guy in the office. So I was selling real estate. And while I was selling real estate, I wound up starting to flip houses before the last crash and did a few houses. I met my partner, Mark, at the time. Through his head of sales for another business he had, and we flipped some houses. And 2007, he made a loan to somebody with his own money through a mortgage relationship that he had, and he charged 14% and 4 points. And he's like, "Wow, this is awesome." And he said, "Hey, Dave, I just did this loan. I have another loan that I'm going to do. I don't have enough money for it," or he was like giving, saying like, "Hey, come in on the deal." So I went in on this loan with him, and it was kind of loose for a while. We were just like lending money
On one-off deals.
And at some point we're like, well, if we could go out and raise more capital, we could make a business out of this. So eventually we put together legal documents to be able to go out and bring other investors in. It mostly started with friends and family. And what most people don't know is that the majority of the money that we've lent out is all raised from private capital. So we have over almost 200 retail investors today that help back our business, in addition to some insurance money and institutional money. But from 2007 to 2010, we were just kind of haphazardly doing it. And we started 2010, the market started opening up, and we really ramped up. We started putting a lot of money into originating and helping to streamline our operation, kind of went there. So like I was a realtor flipping houses, and then by default started lending some money. And now, today we've grown obviously that platform, but we still invest through Lucerne and own and operate a lot of stuff. So I'm like, wow, it's really amazing. And we've surrounded ourselves with great people. We've built an awesome team. So it's kind of,
That's awesome.
yeah, how we got.
And we're going to be speaking on April 13th
Yeah.
at the Passive Income event. So anybody watching this, if you guys are interested in coming out, it's only $25. It includes lunch. And Dave's actually going to be talking about how retail investors, right, people that have some money, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, can invest that money passively in the fund, right, and how that works, the interest and all that stuff. I'm going to be talking about buying multifamilies. I have another speaker, Michael DeFrenza, coming out and talking about alternative investments where you can make, a great rate of return and diversify your money. And we're also going to do a presentation on self-directed retirement accounts. So that's April 13th. We'll put the link up on how they can kind of RSVP for that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be good.
Yeah, it'll be a great
That's
event.
the first type of event like that.
Yeah. It's, I think it's about time too, because as your events have grown, I mean, you come out to Garwood, there's over 200 people. A lot of people are looking to lend or invest passively, and everything's been focused.
And there's a business behind that.
Yeah.
Right? Like how to do it, how to stay protected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like what you guys do, right? You're underwriting loans, you have a team. How many people you guys have working for you?
We have 10 people now, and then myself and Mark, who's my partner. So
yeah, 100 million loans. $100 million in loans. That's a lot.
yeah, we're looking to do.
So what's the next step for you guys?
So I think the next step, I mean, we're continuing to grow. I think this year we hopefully will be somewhere between 125 and 150 million. Is to stay nimble and be opportunistic. And when I say that is that the market may eventually change. Well, it will. To what it'll change to, we don't know. But there may be other investments where capital is needed. Maybe it's going in and buying pools of defaulted notes, which we have funded note purchases in the past. But we want to be a capital partner to investors in every market. So we need to be prepared to be able to shift and do that, and kind of be able to work with, what the market has to offer.
Yeah, you got to be competitive, and you guys are.
Yeah.
That's why I use you guys, and that's why I'm kind of bringing you on the show, and also have you at all of our real estate clubs.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't end up meeting somebody like you until they're years into the business.
Yeah.
And it's good to get that relationship started in the beginning. That way you can do more deals, right?
Yeah.
A capital partner is huge in this business. So if you guys are investors or you're looking to become an investor, for those short-term flips, 6 months, 12 months or less, right? Alpha is a really good resource for you guys to, bring your deal to. And what I like most about you guys is really not the fact that you lend money, but the fact that you're not going to just lend money on every deal. You're going to tell people like, look, this isn't a good deal. Where I think, and I've seen like, and not to mention any names, but like I've seen some lenders that they'll just do the deal and they know that the margins are thin, but you're the one that's going to take the hit as the borrower.
Right.
And you guys, close the
Yeah,
deals.
you can
that make
offset
sense
a
and-
deal with extra money and knowing that borrower is going to be in a bad spot in the end, and we choose not to.
Right.
But I recently was talking to somebody and explained it kind of like this. It's hard sometimes to really understand what the cost of the capital is, and I made a comment at the beginning that, looking back on over $100 million, that the average cost to the borrower was 8% of what they borrowed. Right. So they're getting a lot of leverage. There's a lot of lenders that are out there, and there's some that are really good, and others that may not be, or some that are brokers that hang their hat out. To a borrower, it doesn't really matter. They're looking for a solution on a loan. The thing is that the cost of the capital amongst all the lending companies out there, at the end of the day, fall within a very tight range. We actually offer a higher percentage of leverage than most, but if you have a legal problem, you're going to go to, or a medical problem, you're going to try to find the best doctor or attorney that you can find. If the cost is the same or relatively the same, if your mother was sick with cancer or something, you want to go to the best oncologist. And I know this sounds like a far-fetched idea, but like you should do the same thing with your lender. And it's hard to know who I am or another lender is, but we've been around in the market since 2007. We've done so much business, and the thing is that we talked about a lot of unique problems or market conditions, and having a lender that can navigate through problems and has a team and a process behind what they do to help navigate it is so important. And you don't realize how important it is till you have a problem, right? So why not opt to go with a company that has been around, that has a good reputation in the market, that has the ability to be flexible with you, because we're holding and controlling our own capital. It's a lot to digest and it's hard to figure out, but that's the one thing that I feel most proud about, is that I believe that our team, our process.
Oh, your team is awesome.
And our capital.
Strasser, Matt, like Mark, you. I mean, I've met all you guys, and like you're all super humble, down to earth, and that's what I like about you guys. Like you're out at the events, like you're one of the owners, but you're out there. You're talking to the borrowers, right? Because you care about your retail investors' money being safe and secure, and you're always getting educated too. Like you're always learning, you know, at all of our events, and you can always, somebody that's just started at our events, like you guys have a lot of experience to be able to give them, the right contacts and resources and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this past week, I feel like I got a lot out of the public speaking. I have the opportunity sometimes to get up and speak in front of people, and I want to be better. And I watch you all the time speak, but hearing like the thought process behind it was, important to me. So like I'm always learning. And when you talk about being humble, it's interesting. Years ago, when we showed up at events, we were like the rock stars, right? Like the guys with the money, because there weren't people lending money when we got started. And the first couple of years, there was like no competition. And the approach that I always took, and I said to people, and I've called them out years later, is, hey, they're like coming up to me and wanting to talk and be like, oh, thank you, or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, I need you as much as you need me. I go, there'll be a day where I probably need you more than you need me. And hopefully you remember it. So we've always tried to help people. Look, we're humans. There's times that things don't always, we're not always perfect, but we always try to be respectful of everybody and their business, and trying to build a good relationship. So
I want to see the pictures.
the diving pictures.
Triathlon.
You
Triathlon.
could do, like,
Yeah.
multiple flips. Like,
Can you do this?
Yeah.
Are you gonna do this in Papa Shot?
Yeah.
You could do like.
Yeah, watch.
What's the,
All right, let's see
what's
it.
the highest you ever dived off?
Oh, wait.
Oh
hold on.
shit!
What's the highest you know?
Right.
He's got it. He's a globetrotter. This guy.
How long have you been part of our real estate club?
My memory's bad, but I feel like it's been 10 years.
10 years.
I mean, we've been there almost from the
Almost from the
start.
beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can't say enough about it. It's been a huge part of our business, and we've met so many amazing people who've done so much business there. And the reality is that Jon and the people he brings in gives incredible amounts of education, and they put it all online and catalog. You can't get that. I mean, literally, people pay for education, for, college or anything else. Honestly, a lot of the content that's provided there is better education if you want to be a real estate investor than you'd get, going to some college course. And, at the end of the day, it's a huge value add, but you have to be committed to it. And it's a great community of people. So I think it's amazing, and everyone should be a member if you like to be in real estate. So
Great. So come. We have 4 chapters every month. So just visit njresn.com, and that'll give you the Garwood chapter. It'll give you the Spanish chapter. We have one in Union County in Elizabeth. And then that'll give you the access to the information in Totowa. So if you're up in North Jersey, Passaic County, and then we have njresn2.com, njresn2.com. That one will give you access to the Tinton Falls meeting, which is in Monmouth County. So guys, tag somebody, tag an investor, tag somebody that's interested in real estate. Comment. Tell us what you guys think about this, and share it. Hopefully we'll see you at one of our upcoming events if you're in the Jersey area. If not, fly out here. It's definitely worth it. Some people actually drive from all these different areas to come. And if you want to actually subscribe, I started doing this recently. If you want to subscribe to the NJSN online trainings where we record the events and then we put them on there, that's only $99 for the whole year. So let us know and private message us or DM us, and subscribe to YouTube. We just started our YouTube channel for One-on-One with Jon Steingraber, and you'll get notified anytime we do a video, because these videos aren't live, right? So, we just put them up every once in a while, once a week about, and we put them up at different times. So subscribe to that so you get notified, and thanks for tuning in, appreciate it, and check out Dave at alphafundingsolutions.com or alphafunding.com?
alphafunding.com.
alphafunding.com, that'll be on the screen too, and check them out. We also have a couple other sponsors to thank: Signature Realty NJ. That's our real estate brokerage. So if you're in the real estate career, we're an investor-friendly brokerage. We can pre-sell your properties here in Jersey. My wife is one of the top agents in all of New Jersey, and if you're a realtor and you're looking for a home, come out to Signature Realty NJ, or you can go on our website, signaturerealtynj.com, and check out our careers page on there so you can see what we're all about and just inquire on there. And then we have Freedom Mortgage. Freedom Mortgage gives traditional loans both to regular homeowners that want to refinance, buyers that are purchasing properties, and also investors that want to renovate homes. So check them out as well. Make a bet for Be the Change for charity. $100 and best out of 3.
Best out of 3. I got you, bro.
Good? Let's do it.
All right.
This is a serious game, guys. Fuck! I'm not making anything yet. Oh, he's winning. I can't lose with home court advantage. This is crazy if I lose. Oh, I get bonus, you don't. Kill them.
I had to let him win.
You had me, dude. All right, dude, all you need was that.
I had to give him some courtesy since it's his house.
I was nervous for a little bit, I'll be honest. Dude, why are you taking all my balls?
I have no balls.
Do it.
I know.
Catch it up, Dave. Come on.
Catch up. No, you son of a. I still won, yes.
Nice.
Nice. You want to do the third one just for fun?
We'll do the third just for fun.
Or double or nothing.
double or nothing.
So if you win this one, I owe $200.
Yeah.
Hey.
You gotta make balls.
There we go. Damn, I just got one in for you. You are on fire. Fuck. Yes! I won. Good job, buddy. Good job.
All right.
I thought you were gonna win that one.
All right, bro.
You did way better.
You know you just fed 200 families, right?
That's amazing.
Because it's $1 per bag. So if you guys want to donate to Be The Change, go to BeTheChangeNJ.com.